Bhatt sir for the invitation. To all the dignitaries on and off the dais, I'm very happy to see there's a large crowd that has gathered here today despite the budget. I'm sure like how my colleagues in the office are taking notes on the budget, I'm sure your colleagues are taking notes as well. But it's nice to see that we are all discussing a changing landscape and changing environment for all of us. The original invitee for this panel, and it's a very interesting conversation I had with Bhatt sir, was my father, Mr. Shivdas. He's a senior counsel, most of you would know him. But when the topic came, saying AI and compliances, and this is a joke we have running in the family as well, his password for every single technological item is 0000. And every other password that he has is written down in a piece of paper and kept in his back pocket. So anybody who wants to access anything at all, including his bank account, can easily do so. And that is the criteria and condition for 90% of us here sitting, because there is no way all of us can keep a track of the number of applications that have come in and the number of tools that are there as well. I like what Lavanya madam stated when she gave her very short and crisp speech. She mentioned there is a difference between automation and AI. First of all, I don't have a presentation. Most of what AI needs to happen in terms of compliances has been taken care of by Venkatraman sir, so I'm not going to touch on that. I'm just going to build on something that he's done. Over the last 4 years, we have been spearheading a number of AI tech-related conferences in India. The data protection law has just been announced last year. The rules have come in this year. It'll take some more time for it to fructify and come in. But that is with respect to sensitive data and all of that. We do have a potential AI-related regulation that may come up. Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav has also said very recently that India will have its own AI tool that will come up, which will match the Chinese AI tool that's been making news very recently. But fundamentally, AI is an algorithm. And that algorithm is made by a human. So there is human intervention at the time the algorithm is made. So naturally, there will be a bias. Now, how you use this AI and tooling is up to each of the individuals here, whether it is a company or a professional. The fear that all of us have that AI will take over profession, AI will take over lawyers, doctors, accountants, and all of us, I am here to tell you that is certainly not going to happen. We have seen the rise of AI possibly in the last 5-6 years, but we have also seen damaging situations of AI. AI has been known to hallucinate. We have had situations in US courts where AI has written down a new case law basis the fact of a certain individual, what he wants to input. And that has been picked up by a court saying, we did not even pass this judgment, how did you get this judgment? So that's a pitfall of AI that we have. That's one. Up until 2020, till COVID, the lawyers and the judiciary did not even want to take up AI as a tool. It was with a lot of difficulties that we implemented something like a virtual hearing. And even in a virtual hearing, we see the kind of pitfalls that are there. There are sensitive cases that have been heard in courts. There are guidelines by courts on how sensitive cases need to be telecasted. These are aspects that will take time for people to comprehend. A lot of the international and national law firms have already started deploying AI tools. You now have AI tools where at least 10 associates' work is being done by one AI tool. You can input, the name, and for instance, if you're drafting a rent agreement for that matter, you can input the name, you can input the age, you can input the property details, and then your rent agreement is initially drafted by the AI. What is more interesting is the fact that the minute something like this comes into your hand, it is ultimately a human who has to vet the entire thing and then say, yes, this is the right document to be placed, which is why when Sri Venkatraman mentioned that AI is a necessity, I would slightly disagree with you there, sir. AI is not a necessity till today. I will tell you why. AI is simply a tool for us to make ourselves efficient and better. The ChatGPT or Gemini or any other item that you look at on Google or whatever you may call it today, it responds to the kind of inputs you give it to. Right? If you say, I want to write an email to, the Chief Justice of India, it will create a template and it will give you on how you should possibly write the email by looking at the web that it operates out from. That doesn't mean that what it says is right. And that is where we have to come in, step in and say, no, what determination has been done by the AI-related technology and AI-related aspects is right for us. For all you know, the technology interpretation and the algorithmic value is incorrect. When that suffers, your answers to that algorithmic impact also suffers. There are today's 70 to 80% cases before the high courts, and most of you will know it. Since 2020, after the first show cause notices have been issued, etc., and orders are before the high court, barring the principles of natural justice issue where 1A is not issued, 1 has not been issued, he has not considered my response, he has not given me an opportunity of hearing. Barring all of this, a majority of the issues that are there today before court on merits is your manipulation of documents or the fact that there is some computational issue between your 3B and 9C, 3B and 1, he has not taken credit, I have not taken credit, invoices have not been uploaded. Those aspects can be solved by AI. How? Because it recognizes and tries to figure out whether what you have uploaded corresponds with what has been uploaded in the other person's portal. That will help you solve the problem by being a little more efficient. But at the end of the day, it is still you who has to sit down and say, hey, listen, this is what has happened. This is the right kind of approach that we have to take. Perhaps the invoice which is generated is an auto-generated invoice. A lot of the time, generation of invoices also happens automatically without the consent of the person. So those are aspects which AI can help you determine. Those are aspects which AI can help you figure out. But at the end of the day, human intervention is what is required. Tomorrow, when the GST tribunal is set up, there is no way AI can argue for all of us. Document will have to be read by a lawyer or a chartered accountant. A judge will have to sit there and examine. A human element has to be involved in trying to determine what is the possible way. And AI, we have had situations in Europe and US where arbitration systems are automated, where arbitration systems are AI driven. We have had failures of that arbitration systems. We're trying to involve that in arbitration systems in India today. It is failing miserably. So there is no way an adversarial process of a court can ever be taken care of by an artificial intelligence. At the end of the day, it is still artificial. It may even lack common sense. There are lots of aspects which courts can fit. There are so many judges today who say that if there is an opportunity that needs to be given and if that opportunity has not been given, or despite giving you 3 opportunities, you have not been able to go because you are aged, you don't have adequate representation, etc. Judges can be slightly more human and say, please give him another opportunity. That will not happen with AI. So that we have to be absolutely careful with. There are lots of pitfalls of AI. And the other thing that I want to point out is the fact that when we go to court, of course, and we argue, we are very candid with the judges and we say that the whole and soul of the GST system is not accurate. You can't solely depend upon the technology that the government has created for the GSTN portal itself. Similarly, I don't think we should be fully dependent on an AI tool as well if and when we bring it on board. So that is something that we also have to realize going forward. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have rather than boring all of you. Thank you so much. Now, question and answer open for the forum.
It's clearly admitted that AI tool is an assistance to the professionalist. they very clearly. So far, so many faculties have handled the class, but they too only admitted that it is only a tool. It has to be, give some input, it won't decide anything without the human intervention. That is the clear, we've given message to the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Practice of law, where the drafting and arguing skills are more important for the human. Don't we think that use of AI in our drafting or speaking will reduce the talent of our drafting skill and argumentation?
It might reduce the intake of the drafting capability. Let me give you an example. There are lots of AI tools that have come, and I've been approached by many AI tools themselves, where they say the minute you get a show cause notice, you upload the show cause notice on that AI tool. The minute you upload the show cause notice, it will give you a tentative facts, grounds of appeals, prayer, and what are the other scenarios or other cases on the same point of law, circulars, notifications, etc. that you can rely upon. Correct? But the manner of presentation before court, because it is not formatted, right? It is not put across in a way where the judges are able to understand. Right? It will give you a basic synopsis of what you should put in as part of your draft. But the ultimate application of how that input comes is ultimately by you and me as a lawyer and an individual. So I don't think that it will help you in fact enhance your time management a little better, because instead of giving a draft, your client will be very happy, because instead of giving a draft in 1 week's time, you can give him the draft in 3 days' time. Right? So you can get more clients also that way. So I think it will enhance your capability as an individual to be able to draft and to be able to present it before court. And ultimately the arguments before court have to be done by you. That no AI will help you.
Mess-ups. In case of PAN, though they are not concerned with central government income tax, they reject our application by making small mistakes. Similarly, private limited, we write P in brackets, PVT. PRA, you actually only PRA, VAT only. You will not accept P brackets or PVT. This is the biggest problem with AI. That's
Yes. See, PVT and private, that is the basic problem you have said. This is problem in structuring. For example, if a data is structured to accept only alphabets, if you input numbers or digits, it will not accept, it will not validate. That's how it is validated for private, means PRIVATE, means 7 characters. Only if you are putting PVT, 3 characters, it will not validate. So this is the problem. So that's why I'm saying this has to be trained, the model has to be trained properly. Unless we do that, this problem will occur.
Hello, for critically examining the AI, since you are a lawyer, I guess you all, whatever merits, and you always look at demerits and the merits. Congratulations to you for that. We as a finance professionals and of late, not of late, but quite some time, the risk assessment has been a part of the business nowadays. And everybody talks of risk, saying that, okay. So what has happened is, since yesterday we have been hearing many. In fact, the first day I asked, what we should not do? What is do's and don'ts? What are the don'ts in AI? In fact, everybody was dodging that question. And I was happy that at least you brought it out. I know that case, I'm not a lawyer, but I keep little interest in that. A lot of things have been generated by AI which is not non-existent. And therefore, thanks to you. And you have brought the risk involved in AI. Having said that, neither I'm saying that we should not adopt AI because it only improves the efficiency. And I think somebody who has chosen Mr. Shivdas and the lawyer to come here, I think has given a right blend or balance of what everybody is hyping, saying that, okay, so many jobs should, of course jobs will be lost, but jobs will be created also. So thank you very much again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
In
you.
fact, it should, finance professional, you should understand that the minute you adopt AI, your expense will increase a lot more because you need to every quarter, and of course once the law comes out, data protection law comes out and AI regulation comes out, you'll have that also. Every quarter you're supposed to do a data protection impact assessment. And that will include your AI assessment as well. And that is a more cumbersome process and a more expensive process than even adopting the AI. So I think we should be largely more careful when we adopt AI as well.
Question to Mr. Prasant relating to copyright violations. If you use the AI tool effectively, it gives a lot of information. We are also happy to use it. But is there any copyright violations, whether it will affect our profession in any manner? That's what I want to understand.
So let us assume access or website, web pages, links, papers, etc. that is already available in the public domain. So you will not have a copyright issue because somebody who's put a paper up on say Google or any of the data publishing platforms has already given their consent to put that material online. So the minute AI will only look at anything and around of the web which is already available in the public domain. It will not get into any sensitive, at least that's the hope, it will not get into any sensitive personal data of any of the identities. That said, we have seen cases in South Africa and Australia where AI itself has invented a new item, where AI itself is a patent holder of a new item, where AI itself has invented a new draft, a new script, etc. And there are challenges on whether AI itself can be a copyright holder. Can the artificial intelligence system itself be a copyright holder, etc. Courts have come down on that also to say that no, it will still be the person who created that algorithm who will still be the owner of that script or any of that patent. So AI is far from reaching that stage where it will start collecting copyrightable or patentable material. The hope is that in the future it does not take in, because we have seen, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, I think Mark Zuckerberg's sensitive information that he said in a meeting was leaked. And he is the largest holder of data. And if his own information is being leaked in the public domain, then that's a cause of concern for a lot of people. So the hope is that AI does not attract sensitive data. Let's see and hope that it works out well for all of us.
Considering the time constraint, we will allow the model like AI, we need a lot of data, right? And what I understand from some of the research, because that's what I'm actually doing in my profession also, we get the data from whatever the concerns we give in all the mobile apps. It's getting stored somewhere and getting used. So some of us who's actually educated here, who knows to read and get the agreement done, is there something happening in the law side to make sure that the ill-educated people also know that what's happening around it, their data is not taken out because of just one concern, what is they giving on the app? Do you have anything? It's a general question, but I just wanted to get from the law perspective, so it will be better if you can answer for that.
So our data protection law, which came into effect in 2022, is the third round of the data Puttaswamy of the Supreme Court, which held that right to privacy is a fundamental right, basis that there were a number of commission reports that were generated, and there were about 3-4 bills of data protection law, which was almost similar to the European Union's GDPR. Now we've simplified that version a little more, and we've given out a new set of law, and the rules have come in January this year. It's still under discussions now. One of the items and biggest touch points of the data protection law is the fact that if I am a platform and you are the user on my platform, I should tell you what is the purpose of me collecting this data, right? I am collecting this data for you to come and shop for a pen, right? So what information do I need? First of all, I need your name, I need your age, possibly if I'm selling any items that are above the age of 18, etc. Or I need your phone number and address to be able to deliver this product to your house, correct? The minute I collect this data, you have the liberty to tell me whether I should retain that data or delete that data, right? The minute you say I should retain the data, then I should be in a position, because I can't store that data in my server. I don't have space in my server. So I will have contract with somebody like an AWS to store that data. So I should tell you that I am also storing this data in AWS server. It is going to leave India. So it is going to be stored in, say, Washington or Seattle or any of those places. It is going to be stored there. But when it comes to sensitive data like financial information and all of that, RBI is very clear that that data cannot leave India. It has to stay in India, which is why your financial related information, insurance related information, health, medical related insurance, medical related issues and data, etc., has to stay in India. It will not leave India. On your question on how will non-educated people be able to view it, that's a problem. I'll tell you the reason why it's a problem. While we may have said in the law that we have to make the privacy policy which comes to you as per the new law has to be given in 27 languages, right? At least one language of each state it has to be made, although the constitution mandates 52 languages as per the 7th schedule. So I am supposed to give you the privacy policy in your language. The problem comes when children who under the age of 18 go to school and they want to access applications and their parents are not educated enough to understand what they're giving consent to. Because the child will have to seek the parents' consent to be able to access, say, a Netflix or a Prime for some documentary. If the child wants to see a documentary on elephants, let us assume, like a National Geographic documentary on elephants, the child will have to first explain to the parent why this is relevant and information for them, and then the parent will have to give a consent on behalf of the child saying the child is over 18. For that, the parent will have to show their Aadhaar, say that I am the child's parent. So you are complicating the process a little more, right? Law is still fluid. The court at some point of time has to figure out how to deal with this kind of a situation. AI plays a bigger role in trying to what is AI in this situation? It will tell you all these people in this room are trying to buy one table fan. This is the best table fan, right? We have done our survey, we have done our analytics, this is the basic touch point, this is the basic price point. That's where the AI analytics will kick in. Now DPDP has said you can't use that analytics to market again to the individual. So those are aspects which the law is developing as we go along. It will be interesting to see how the courts interpret that.
Thank you, Raghavendra, for taking up. Special thanks to Prashant and special thanks to Lavanya. To put across, I had a myth. To be very frank, I had a myth that AI is going to replace the job. I had that fear. So I was little hesitant, or I was having a different mindset altogether. You both have transformed my mindset, and that fear has been eliminated. Thank you so much for doing that. It's not easy to remove that from my subconscious mind, which was there. You made that miracle. Yes, I totally agree upon your words. I am also a believer of these words, that human cannot be replaced, but we need to adapt ourselves to enhance and to adapt. So we need learnings. So I will walk in the direction of learning the AI tool. At the same time, it has removed that barrier of that myth, and I consider your words as a personal advice or a realization to all of us here. I totally acknowledge your words, and thank you so much for giving that insight. I'm blessed to have you both here especially. I am considering that my time is well invested. Thank you so much.
Thank you all of you.